In the year 2335, Earth had become a quiet strength among the stars. While other species chased territory and power, humanity had taken a different path, offering healing. Across 100 alien worlds, the Earth Medical Corps, known simply as EMC, had become a symbol of hope. Their white ships landed where war raged, and their unarmed personnel walked into battle zones not with weapons, but with medicine, clean water, and steady hands. They followed the sacred pact of the stars, a law honored by all civilized species. Healers shall never be harmed. For over a century, this oath had been respected. Until DARSAL on -4. The first message arrived as a garbled transmission. Static, broken voices, the sound of screaming in the background. This is EMC Field Unit Theta. We're under fire. Repeat, they're targeting medics. They're not. They're not. Then silence. For a few minutes, no one believed it. Earth had seen conflict before, but this was something else. Darsallan IV was a rugged planet on the edge of the Outer Rim, a place known for its tribal disputes and slow-moving politics. MC teams had been stationed there for months, treating civilians and even wounded enemy fighters, as they always did. But now, their main field camp had gone dark. When a recon drone finally reached the site, the horror became clear. Dozens of med tents had been torn apart by precise energy blasts. Medical drones lay shattered across the ground. Human aid workers, doctors, nurses, engineers had been shot at close range. The EMC insignia, normally a symbol of peace, was marked with burn holes. Not a single weapon was found among the dead. They had not fought back. They had simply been executed. The Galactic Council was called into emergency session. Earth's ambassadors demanded action, but the response was cold. The Darsalonian warlords denied involvement, claiming the attack had been done by rogue militias, not under their control. Other species shook their heads, cautious of breaking delicate alliances. Politics moved slowly. Justice slowed even more. And so Earth waited and mourned, but not everyone waited. Far above Earth, in the quiet orbit of a moon base known only to a few, something stirred. Within a hidden command chamber, lit only by dim red lights, a secure black file was opened for the first time in 20 years. Its name, Operation Seraphim. Unlike the EMC, Operation Seraphim did not bring healing. It was a name known only to Earth's highest defense command, a final answer to betrayal. The ones it called upon were not soldiers in the traditional sense. They were something else, something made for one purpose only: to remind the galaxy that humanity, while merciful, could also be terrifying. In a long hangar beneath the base, an old alarm hummed softly, breaking the silence. Rows of sealed lockers clicked open one by one. Each held a single suit of armor, matte black and silent, designed not to shine in the sun, but to vanish in shadow. Helmets shaped like angelic masks, with smooth silver visors and a single red mark over the eyes, hung on the walls like sleeping ghosts. Inside the hangar stood a single figure, tall and still, as if carved from stone. Her name was Captain Mara Vance, once a frontline medic herself, now the leader of Earth's most secret unit, the Angels of Death. Years ago, Mara had saved lives on broken planets, kneeling beside the wounded under gunfire. She had been one of the best until she watched her entire team die when their hospital ship was targeted by smugglers. She'd begged Earth Command for justice. What she got instead was silence. So she joined Seraphim. She was the first. She had trained the rest. Each member of her unit had once taken the healer's oath and then seen it broken. They had stepped away from peace, but never forgotten why they once chose it. They didn't fight wars. They ended them, quietly, with no banners and no speeches. Only results. A voice echoed across the hangar speakers. Captain Vance, clearance confirmed. Full deployment authorized by Earth High Command. Objective. Identify responsible parties. Eliminate chains of command. Minimal collateral. Broadcast. Target messages only. No mercy for those who target the innocent. Mara stepped forward, her boots echoing on the metal floor. Her gloved hand reached for the helmet. The visor flared briefly as it powered on, scanning her vitals. The inside screen blinked green. Angel 1 online. Behind her, more figures entered. The hangar silent shadows in dark armor, each one carrying a symbol on their shoulder. The old EMC cross, now lined in blood red. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Each had waited for this moment, the call that would come if Earth's oath was ever broken. Now that it had, they would become the response. Across the base, ships came to life sleek, angular, built for speed and silence. The Eidolon, their flagship, hummed with energy, ready to vanish into deep space without a trace dot as Mara looked out the narrow hangar window toward the stars. She thought of the doctors who died on Darsalon 4. She remembered the children they had treated, the families they had fed. And she remembered the sacred pact, the oath, the galaxy had once shared. Healers shall never be harmed. Now. Someone had broken it. So Earth would answer. Not with words. Not with warnings. But with the silence of wings in the dark. The angels of death were awake, and they were coming. The Eidolon moved through the blackness of space like a whisper. No lights blinked on its hull. No signals left its walls. It was a ship designed for silent stealth built into every inch. Most people in the galaxy had never heard its name. Those who didn't speak of it. It belonged to Earth, but not the Earth of diplomats and kind-hearted scientists. It belonged to a part of Earth that only existed for moments like this, when peace had been shattered and someone needed to answer in a way the galaxy would never forget. Inside, the crew worked in total focus. There were no smiles, no laughter, no unnecessary words. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were the angels of death, called only when everything else had failed. They were Earth's shadow, the hand it kept hidden until the lights went out. Each of them had once worn the white coat of a healer. Now they wore armor that seemed to drink in the light around them. At the center of the ship, in a room lined with old battle maps and glowing screens, stood Captain Mara Vance. Her helmet sat on the table beside her, its blank silver face staring at nothing. She didn't need it to feel the weight of what was coming. Her eyes scanned the digital feed, showing the planet below, Darsalon 4, a world scorched by tribal war and greed. Somewhere down there, the people who ordered the killing of Earth's medics were still breathing. That was about to change. Behind her stood her team. 5 soldiers, each with their own silent pain. Lieutenant Kato, the sniper who had once been a battlefield surgeon. Corporal Wren, explosives expert, formerly a trauma nurse. Sergeant Hale, once an aid worker in refugee camps, now the team's close combat specialist. Then there was Mira, the tech expert whose voice had not been heard in years, not since she survived the bombing of her clinic. These were not people who had trained to kill. They were people who had learned to kill after being surrounded by too much death. This isn't a war, Mara said quietly, turning to her squad. It's a message. No speeches, no fear. We go in, find who gave the orders, and end this cleanly. Make it clear. Earth's medics are not to be touched, ever. They nodded, no word spoken. The first insertion began hours later. Dropped in low-orbit pods, they fell like shadows across the sky. No one saw them coming. The angels moved through the twisted jungle terrain of Darsalon 4 without leaving a trail. Their armor masked heat and sound. They didn't attack cities or engage soldiers. Instead, they targeted hidden bases, relay towers, communication hubs, quiet places, places where power ate itself. The first objective was a war camp on the edge of the desert, ruled by a known arms dealer named Kelran Voss. He wasn't a politician, but he held influence over the warlords through weapons and money. It was his supplies that had shown up in the wreckage of the destroyed EMC base. At midnight, the guards on his walls vanished, one by one. By the time he noticed the breach, his control center was already sealed shut from the inside. Mara stood. Before him, silent in her armor. He reached for a weapon, but it melted in his hand, Mira's tech already working. Behind Mara, Sergeant Halle raised his weapon, but Mara held up her hand. "We don't shoot unless we need to," she said through her helmet. "We're not here to start another war." Voss tried to speak. His words were fast, slippery, trying to blame others, claim he didn't know. But when Mara projected the footage of him negotiating the raid, recorded weeks ago by a spy satellite, he fell silent. And then he screamed. No one outside the room heard him. By sunrise, the war camp was empty. No bodies, no damage. Just one wall painted with Earth's old symbol for healing, only now drawn in red, with wings beneath it. The message spread fast. Soldiers who once laughed at Earth's soft hands now hesitated when they heard something move in the dark. Over the next 3 days, the Angels struck 6 more locations. No 2 missions were the same. Sometimes they captured, sometimes they dismantled entire networks of communication. In one case, they released a hostage an EMC surgeon, kept alive by a warlord, hoping to use her knowledge. The woman collapsed in Mara's arms, whispering, "I thought no one would come." "We always come," Mara replied, but something darker was hiding beneath it all. While scanning data from a captured terminal, Mira found encrypted files that didn't match any Darsalan warlord patterns. These weren't local communications. They were orders, paid contracts, coordinated by an outside force. One name appeared again and again. The Korith Syndicate. Mara felt the weight of it settle in her chest. The Korith Syndicate was a powerful group, part political, part mercenary, feared across the Outer Rim. They had no borders, no morals, and plenty of enemies. But until now, they had avoided targeting Earth directly. They wanted to make us look weak, Cato muttered as he watched the decrypted messages. "Kill our medics. Wait for us to sit still." "They thought we'd do nothing," Mara said. Coldly. The Syndicate's plan was bigger than anyone expected. It wasn't just about Darsalan. It was about destroying Earth's influence across neutral worlds. If healers were no longer safe, Earth would be forced to withdraw aid from dozens of war zones. The galaxy would spiral. Chaos would win. Not on Mara's watch. She gathered her team in the main chamber of the Eidolon. Their helmets were off now, faces marked by loss, but eyes burning with purpose. "They've made a mistake," she said. "They thought we were just healers who forgot how to fight." She placed her helmet back on, sealing the lock. "They're about to remember. The Korith Syndicate didn't rule planets. It didn't build cities. It didn't fly banners. It moved like a shadow across the galaxy, silent and dangerous. The Syndicate sold wars, bought silence, and thrived on chaos. And now, for reasons no one yet understood, it had chosen to break the pact of the healers and strike directly at Earth's soul. Mara Vance stood inside the Eidolon's war chamber, watching as the decrypted files revealed names, faces, times, and routes. The attack on the EMC teams hadn't been a random act by the Darsalonian warlords. It had been planned, paid for, executed with Syndicate help. The enemy Earth thought it understood was now part of something far bigger and far colder. The Darsalan warlords were just tools, Nira said softly, her voice breaking its long silence for the first time in weeks. The Syndicate wanted the world to see medics fall. They wanted the galaxy to feel doubt. They failed, Mara replied. Her eyes narrowed as she focused on the largest data cluster, marked by a cold blue emblem, a Syndicate black site, hidden in the ruins of an old mining station. It was built deep beneath the surface of a dead moon orbiting Darsalon 4. It wasn't on any chart. It wasn't supposed to exist. But now it was their next destination. Within hours, the Angels of Death prepared for insertion. This time, they wouldn't go in quiet. This time, they wanted to be seen. The drop pods slammed into the surface of the moon like comets. Alarms screamed in the Syndicate base. Guards rushed into dark corridors, weapons raised, but they weren't prepared for what came next. The Angels moved fast, not like soldiers, but like a force of nature. Their armor absorbed light, their weapons made no sound, and their movements were exact. Sergeant Hawley led the breach team. He moved through the narrow halls, clearing rooms with terrifying speed. Behind him, Myra jammed communications and locked escape doors. Cato perched on a broken support beam above, picking off targets through walls with his silent rail rifle. Wren placed small charges along key structural points, designed not to kill, but to cripple. They weren't here to destroy everything. They were here to find the truth and send a warning. They reached the main control chamber in under 6 minutes. Inside, Syndicate tech officers tried to wipe the servers, but Mara was faster. Her shock spear snapped between hands and keyboards, disabling systems without killing. The lead tech fell to the floor, hands raised. "We're just engineers," he cried. "We didn't shoot anyone." "No," Mara said, her voice steady inside the helmet. "But you built what they used to kill doctors." They pulled every file, every message, every video. They found blueprints for false flag raids, fake rebel uniforms, and counterfeit evidence designed to mislead the Galactic Council. But one folder hit harder than the rest. Inside, there were hundreds of still images, photos of Earth medics captured before the Darsalon massacre. Some had been followed for weeks, tracked, watched, targeted. It hadn't been a quick decision. It had been planned for months. "Monsters," Cato whispered, his voice tight. "No," Mara replied quietly. "They're not monsters. They're worse. Monsters act without reason. These people chose to do this." In one locked chamber, they found something worse than data. They found a survivor. Doctor, Ellen Rosearth Medical Corps' trauma surgeon. Last seen 6 weeks before the massacre. Everyone thought she had died with her team. But here she was, weak, beaten, alive. She stared up as Mara removed her helmet. "You came," Ellen whispered. "You really came." "We never leave our own," Mara said. They moved out fast. Syndicate reinforcements were already on the way, but the Angels didn't need to fight them. The moment they left the black site, Wren triggered the charges. The entire moon shuddered. The base didn't explode, it collapsed inward, the roof sinking into itself like a cave crushed by time. Not one piece of Syndicate tech would survive. Back aboard the Eidolon, Mara stared at the files. One name kept appearing over and over. Vas Rekara High-Level, Syndicate strategist known for making chaos look like coincidence. He had been the one to sign off the operation. He had hired the mercenaries. He had overseen the plan to ruin Earth's image. And according to intercepted signals, he had just arrived on a new target, the Luna Medical Complex, Earth's main orbital hospital. "He's going after Earth," Hale said, eyes wide. "He's going to hit our hospitals, where we're not ready, where we don't expect a fight." "He's wrong," Mara said. "We're always ready." She walked into the briefing room, where the rest of her team waited. The lights dimmed. A star map of Earth's system blinked into view. "We've been ghosts long enough," she said. Now we step into the light. She raised a small chip in her hand, a data shard containing everything they had found. This will be broadcast to every channel, every ship, every council. The galaxy will see the truth. The Syndicate killed our healers. The Syndicate broke. The Pact, they wanted to show Earth as weak. She slid the chip into the console. The Eidolon signal began to pulse outward, but they forgot who we are. From the shadows, the Angels of Death stepped forward, helmets on, weapons ready, eyes locked. We are the ones you never send first, Mara said. We are the last thing they see when they go too far. A moment of silence followed. Not fear, not sadness. Just purpose. And the ship turned toward Earth. The Earth looked calm from space, as it always did. Blue oceans, green continents, clouds moving slowly across the sky. But calmness could be a lie. Far above the planet, orbiting in the dark, was the Luna Medical Complex, a hospital station that served thousands every day. Civilians, wounded soldiers, even off-world patients. It was the heart of Earth's medical reach. It had no weapons, no shields, and no reason to expect war. But war had already arrived. Inside the control center of the station, Dr. Aida Rowan was reviewing patient files when the alarm lights turned red. A dull siren began to pulse across the hallways. At first, no one understood what was happening. Then came the message, short, urgent, shaking the room like thunder. Unidentified vessels incoming. All medical traffic halted. Brace for contact. In space, 6 Syndicate ships broke out of stealth. They were small, fast, built for rapid strikes. Not enough to destroy a city, but more than enough to cripple a hospital. They opened fire before even sending a demand. Laser bolts cut through docking ports. Supply wings shattered. One corridor collapsed, sending workers flying. The first casualties were not soldiers. They were patients. Inside the station, chaos spread fast. Nurses rushed to move children out of damaged zones. Surgeons carried wounded through smoke-filled halls. There was no time for fear-only movement, only survival. Earth's medical oath had always been to save lives first. But now, they were the ones bleeding. Down below, on Earth's surface, the emergency signal reached the highest level of command. And within moments, it reached the one ship that had been waiting for this moment, the Eidolon. Mara Vance stood. In the command deck, her helmet already sealed, her voice steady. "They've made their move," she said. "They want fear. They want panic. They want to prove that even Earth can bleed quietly." Behind her, the Angels of Death locked there. Weapons into place. They had seen many attacks. They had fought in places far worse than this. But this was different. This was home. "They don't know us," Kaito muttered. "They will." Hale said. The Eidolon accelerated out of stealth, flying like a spear toward the Syndicate ships. It didn't open fire immediately. Instead, it sent out a message lev. Unfiltered, sent across every channel in range. "This is Captain Mara, Vance of Earth. You attacked our healers on Darsalon 4. Now you've come to our skies. You came to bleed us quietly, but Earth does not stay silent." For a moment, the Syndicate ships paused. The message wasn't expected. They thought Earth would beg for help. They thought the hospital would collapse without defense. What they didn't know was that Earth never fights with just one hand. The Eidolon launched its drop pods. Black armor glinted in the moonlight. The Angels of Death dropped through the thin atmosphere like falling stars, crashing into the Luna complex. With practiced precision, they didn't waste time. They didn't speak. They moved through smoke and debris, heading straight for the boarding zones where Syndicate raiders were trying to break through. Inside the hospital, Dr. Rowan stared in shock. His 4 armored figures marched past her, weapons silent but ready. They weren't like normal soldiers. They didn't shout or panic. They simply acted. In under 5 minutes, they pushed back the syndicate units that had breached the lower levels. Not a single bullet hit a civilian. Not one life was lost under their protection. "They're real," she whispered. "The angels, they're real." In space, the Eidolon twisted between enemy fire, its weapons targeting engines instead of cockpits. They weren't here to kill, they were here to send a message. This is what happens when you strike Earth. On the lead syndicate ship, Vass Wrecker finally showed his face. Cold eyes, sharp voice, no emotion. He had been behind the massacre on Darsalon 4. He had planned the strike. On Luna, now his calm was breaking. "Pull back," he ordered. They weren't supposed to respond this fast. "Where's our cover?" There was none. Myra had already hijacked their communications. Wren had shut down their warp signatures. Halle had set charges on their fuel lines. And Mara was already on. Bored, she moved through Rekor's ship like a ghost. Guards fell silently. Alarms died before they finished ringing. She reached the main chamber just as Wrecker tried to flee. He turned, gun shaking. "You're just medics in armor," he said. Voice rising. "No," Mara replied. "We were medics. Now we're something else." She moved fast. A single strike disarmed him. Another brought him to his knees. She didn't kill him. Not yet. Instead, she activated her suit's broadcast function. Across every channel, Rekor's face appeared defeated, bruised, caught. And then Mara's voice filled the galaxy. "Let this be heard across every world. Earth does not send its healers into danger without protection. The angels of death are real, and they do not forget." The syndicate forces broke. The rest of the enemy ships turned and vanished into warp space, running before they were fully destroyed. They had expected a quiet kill. They had walked into a storm. Back aboard the Luna Medical Complex, lights slowly turned from red to green. Systems began to recover. Smoke cleared. Survivors wept in silence. The station had survived. Earth had survived. Dr. Rowan stood in the main hall as the angels passed once more, their armor marked by ash and plasma burns. She reached out, touched Mara's arm. "Thank you," she whispered. Mara paused, then nodded. "We don't do this for thanks," she said softly. "We do it because no one else will." Outside the station, the earth below continued to turn. Peace had been shaken, but it had not been broken. And in the shadows of the stars, the angels of death prepared for their final mission. The stars were quiet again. The smoke had cleared from Earth's orbit, and the Luna Medical Complex stood strong, damaged, but alive. Across the galaxy, images of the Syndicate's defeat spread like wildfire. For the first time in decades, the Pact of the Healers had a new symbol beside it, a winged mark drawn in red. Earth had not begged. Earth had not threatened. Earth had answered with silence, and then with steel. The angels of death were now legend, but one final mission remained. Vass Wrecker, the man behind the massacre on Darsalon 4 and the Luna attack, had been captured, but not by the Galactic Council. He sat inside a holding cell deep within the Eidolon, surrounded by unmarked walls, no view of space, no idea where he was. No trial date had been set. No calls for diplomacy had been answered. Earth wasn't asking for permission. In the command chamber, Mara stood alone, watching him through a glass panel. He hadn't spoken in hours. Maybe he was waiting. Maybe he was afraid. Maybe he knew what was coming. The door behind her slid open. Lieutenant Cato stepped in, helmet under his arm. "Galactic Council just issued a statement," he said. "They want us to hand him over." Mara didn't move. "And what did we say?" "Nothing yet. They're still debating whether the massacre counts as a war crime." She scoffed softly. "Children were shot while they were sleeping. Medics were burned alive. and they're still debating. Cato nodded grimly. They fear setting a precedent. They're afraid of the Syndicate's other supporters. Mara turned, eyes cold. Then we'll set it for them. She called her team together in the central war room. The holographic display lit up with faces of the fallen EMC doctors, engineers, nurses, peacekeepers, all of them unarmed. All of them killed in cold blood. They died doing what the galaxy asked of us, Mara said. We answered the call. We brought healing, and when we were struck down, no one raised a voice. No one spoke. The silence was not from fear, but from shared pain. The Syndicate broke the pact, she continued. And still the Council hesitates, but we do not. There will be no courtroom, no media circus. This ends now. Hale nodded once. So what do we do with him? We let the galaxy watch, she said. Let them see what happens when angels cry fire. A broadcast was prepared, tight, focused, sent directly to every medical outpost across human and alien space. It wasn't a message of vengeance. It was a warning wrapped in truth. The footage began with the Darsalan massacre. Uncensored, raw. The destroyed med tents, the fallen healers, the field transmissions begging for mercy. Then it showed the Syndicate black site, the rescue of Dr. Ellen Roz, the Luna medical attack, and Earth's response. It ended with Mara's face. We are Earth, she said. We sent our healers to your planets. You let them die. We answered not with revenge, but with justice. From this day forward, the Pact of the Healers is protected not by words, but by us. She stepped aside, revealing Wrecker in chains. This is the man who ordered the deaths of our unarmed medics. He will face no court. He will face the will of the people he tried to silence. The screen went dark. Wrecker was escorted to the hangar unarmed, surrounded by silent armor. Above him, the Eidolon's launch bay opened. Stars glittered beyond. At the far end stood a small shuttle, powered just enough for drift. You think? You've won, Wrecker finally said, voice trembling. But all you've done is expose yourselves. The galaxy won't let you act like this again. Mara didn't answer. She simply gestured to the shuttle. You want to be heard? She asked. Then float through the stars and tell your story. No supplies, no weapons, just truth. He hesitated, unsure if this was mercy or cruelty. But he stepped inside Dot as the shuttle launched. It didn't explode. It didn't vanish. It drifted quietly through space, a beacon of Earth's judgment. Carrying the man who had tried to silence the oath of peace Dot back on Earth, something began to change. The EMC, once seen as soft and vulnerable, was now protected by a force no one could predict. More volunteers joined. More ships were built. Medical flags now flew beside the Angel's winged emblem white and red. Peace and fire. On distant planets, old enemies stepped back. Raiders fled when med tents appeared. Even the Syndicate's own allies grew silent, afraid that the black helmets might appear in the night. And deep aboard the Eidolon, Mara walked the quiet halls alone. She stopped by the armory, placing her helmet on the rack. It's done, Myra said quietly from behind her. Mara turned, her expression softening. For now. They'll come again, Mira said. Yes, but next time they'll remember what we are. Mira nodded. They called us angels. But angels don't carry rifles. No, Mara whispered. Only the broken ones do. Outside the viewport, Earth turned slowly, blue and calm. For now, peace had returned, but not the kind born of treaties or signatures. This was a peace carved into memory earned, not granted. In the end, the galaxy had learned something very old and very human. Kindness is not weakness, and even angels, when pushed too far, will learn to burn.